Good evening, everyone. So we'll be starting the section right away while others going to join us. So once again, good evening. You are welcome to October Meet and Chat to the professionals. My name is Balogunsho Ayodeji, and I'll be your anchor for today's section. This section is a collaborative effort between the finance business partner and accounting job hub. The aim of today's section is to impact young professionals with the requisite knowledge and first-hand information on how developing better money habits can help them get a hold of their finances and start building a better future for themselves. So it's my pleasure to welcome our guest for today's section in person of Mr. Babatunde Akimoses. So without wasting much of our time, permit me to introduce our guest to us. Mr. Tunde is a consulting professional with over 10 years experience where he focused purely in accounting, finance, and tax within the energy industry in Nigeria. He is also a first class economic graduate from Bowen University. Thereafter, he started his professional career with Shell as a budget analyst, where he assisted in the preparation of budget for approval by joint venture and international partners. After I left Shell, he went ahead to work with KPMG Nigeria, where he started to build his career in tax, focused on providing tax compliance and advisory services to companies in the energy sector in Nigeria. So I think that's where he picked interest in tax. So he immediately left KPMG Nigeria. He also proceeded to another big four, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC Nigeria, where he rose to the position of a tax manager within the shortest possible period of time. Also focused on providing tax compliance and advisory services to companies in the energy industry in Nigeria. So after I left PwC, he went ahead to pursue his MBA in Lagos Business School, where he met his co-founders of his current startup company, which is currently leading. Mr. Antude is currently the CEO of Sycamore.ng, I think I'm right, which is a financial service startup focused on providing a lending platform that connects lenders to borrower using technology platform. So if you are very active in the street of Facebook and LinkedIn, you must have come across Mr. Today popular writing called Junior and Uncle Tunde, where you focus on talking about career, finance, Nigeria, entrepreneurship in the best possible way anyone can easily understand. So if you are not following Mr. Tunde on any of the social media handles, basically you are missing out because it's an embodiment of value creation. So Mr. Tunde, over to you. So once again, we sincerely appreciate you for taking time out to speak to us today, which we do really appreciate. Why for our listeners, if you have any question, you can always use the chat box during the section. All questions will be attended to by the guest. So Mr. Tunde, if you're on the call, you can take over.
Very much, Mr. Balogun. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Again, thank you for that introduction. There's a lot of bobo in there, but I'm hoping that this could be as interactive as possible. And from what I understand, there are a lot of young professionals there. So honestly, we can actually take general business and career questions, because what I'm going to be sharing, I'm going to keep it very simple and as basic as possible. And I can see a lot of brilliant faces around, so I'm sure there are things that many of us are familiar with to a large extent. Again, maybe at the end I can also take more general, like I said, business, career, and finance related questions, because the topic is going to be as simple as possible. All right, I'm going to share my screen now. so that and again, this I guess it's very short presentation. I'm sorry, Mr. Balogo, how long do I have?
Okay, we can do 30 to 45 minutes, then we do Q&A section.
Okay, all right. I might not even take up to, I don't even know if I'll take that long, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right. So thank you everyone for making this presentation. And I hope, we can take a thing or two away. And basically the learning objectives is, understand the importance of money habits in wealth building. Know a few advantages of money habits, a few advantageous money habits, and learn the habits to keep away from as well. So more like a list of things not to do. Again, these are very simple things, and we're just going to keep them straightforward as possible. I think Mr. Balogo has done justice to my profile. For those that do not know me, I'm currently CEO of Sycamore. I'm an alumnus of both PwC and KPMG. PwC is there because that's my last role. I used to work as strategy for a very short time in a company in Kenya, Nairobi. I'm doing something similar to what I'm doing now. My first degree is in economics, chartered accountant. I have an MBA from Lagos Business School. As DJ said, I like to write, read, I like to watch movies, music, and table tennis. So I'm active across, all the major, social media platforms where I pretty much post the same thing on most of them. I think sometimes I don't post some things on LinkedIn because, it can be very, very serious. Or maybe they're trying to tell us something now that they've put a laughter emoji. So who knows? I'm also very passionate about Nigeria and business in general. So I typically like to encourage people to look for opportunities here. Again, I have nothing against anybody that wants to jackpot. Please, if you want to jackpot, you're free to. But yeah, I'm just saying that I personally feel like, there are a lot of opportunities for people that are looking to get to the top and really, really make a name for themselves here. You can do that anywhere in the world, but I think because Nigeria is developing, it leaves us with a lot of opportunities to actually achieve that even more. So this is a quick, quiz. You can put answers, you can put your answers in the chat. Again, this is just to make it a little bit more interactive. So the question is, what do you do first after receiving your salary? Typically, you guys don't lie. God is watching you. So do you run and pay all the people that you borrowed money from last month? Is that the first thing you do? I look for the most expensive restaurant to eat at. I go and dash the people that have been begging me for money. People might be asking for Gen 2K, and you just feel like, you've gotten your salary, you want to go and give them back, or you set aside some for savings. I would really like if we could put, answers in the chat. Is anybody there? Okay. Okay, I'm trying to check what's in the chat. Pay exam fees, okay. Okay, that's there too. Any other takers? Settle my interest contribution and loan refund. I take care of myself first after a stressful month. Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, I guess that is as comfortable as we are with sharing for now. Okay, so this is again very basic, and obviously the answer for this particular one is to set aside money for saving, because I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's good to pay yourself first. but it's not cast in stone. I think the whole point is that you should just have a very specific plan. So thrift contribution is fine, and loan refund depending on how urgent the loan is. Take care of myself first after a stressful month. I mean, you cannot come and go and die now, so there's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. Set aside, like I see Funsho saying, set aside some for some savings, which is also great. Again, it's just to have a plan, right? And to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself, because if you notice, when they pay salaries on Thursdays and Fridays, that's when some people want to hit the clubs. I mean, again, if you have a particular budget for that, it's not a bad thing, but just make sure that you have a plan and you're also taking care of yourself. And one of the ways of taking care of yourself is to put aside some money for savings. Okay, see, this is what we're talking about, right? You see this picture. People want to die at the end of the month, and then when salary comes, there's a small smile. Again, the whole idea of this is, are we all living from month to month? And that's really not the best way to live. Again, I'm not saying that anybody's perfect. I know that life happens and whatnot, but building money habits would sort of get us into that place where we can be smiling like the second guy in the picture, as opposed to looking like you want to die just before, when it's a few days. I'm sure that many people between 20th and 25th, or 20th and 30th, depending on when salaries are paid, everybody is usually squeezing face and just looking very serious. But with good money habits, we could sort of pace ourselves all around the month. Yeah. So what are money habits? Money is very, very important, right? It affects almost every decision you can think of. You think about money, because it drives so much. There is this saying, not a saying, but there is this thing where people often misquote that thing when they say money is the root of all evil. But that's actually not the root of all evil, right? It's actually the love of money that is the root of all evil. So, because money is important, right? Many of our decisions here, we're having this session and we're talking about money. The decision to go to certain places tomorrow, decision to take certain jobs. So many factors, right, are all riding on money. So, money is integral, and we can't deny the fact that money is a critical part of all our lives. Ideal situation, is when you cannot stop from doing anything very, very important because of lack of money. That is very, very key. When I say important now, I'm talking about needs, not just wants. If you want to drive a range, you have to wait, right, till you can make enough money. But at least to eat, buy clothes. Somebody spoke about paying exams and, very, very basic things. You want to make sure that you have money to do that. There are two, when you talk about money, right, you're either making money or you're losing, or you're either making money or you're managing the money that you've made. A lot of people focus on making money, which is excellent. I always encourage that. We should all improve our skills so that we can make more money. But interestingly, if you are just keeping track and managing the one you have, you'll be surprised by how far you can go. And I say this, with all sense of responsibility, because it's something that I've seen in my personal life, where if you plan properly, you could get a whole lot more from something smaller, right? If you plan and you use money wisely. So there's always luck, right? But you need to plan to be wealthy. I'm sure we all want to be wealthy here, right? We all want to have, and wealth goes beyond just, cash. It's about assets, it's about investing and all of that. So if you're not planning to be wealthy, it's going to be more difficult to get there. And you could have either have a positive or negative relationship with money. And, it depends on how you manage that. If it's positive, you're building wealth. If it's negative, then, you're dissipating wealth, as the case may be. Again, if you don't manage money, this could be your meal plan, right? This is a SACPA meal plan. Again, you can check out this timetable and you can see it even starts. You are fasting by force on Sunday morning, which is good, but fasting should be voluntarily, right? You shouldn't be forced to fast because of SACPA or because you don't have money. Two oranges in the afternoon and beans for dinner. Monday, rice, chewing gum, and eba. And then Tuesday, you start the day with the eba you couldn't finish the night before, right? And then you now take another compulsory fasting and you call it free period. And you take some gari. So throughout that day, eba and gari. And then Wednesday, there's bread and there's water. In the afternoon, there's lollipop. Then you go and look for a friend that can cook. And then biscuits, air, and amala. I mean, again, if you are doing this voluntarily, it's not bad. But if you are being forced to do this, then there's a problem. And then Saturday, you are looking for all available Owambe. I mean, Owambe is lovely. I like to go for weddings too. But we shouldn't be going for weddings because we don't have food at home. I think that's not why our friends are doing weddings, right? They're calling us to celebrate with them. And yes, of course, to eat too. But not that we can't afford food and then we'll go looking for weddings all around. Anyways, that's just a lighter note. Why should good money habits be developed? And they help you develop wealth and set you up for financial success. I'm sure everybody here wants to be financially successful. I don't know if everybody necessarily wants to be like Dangote. But I mean, most people want to be financially successful. Okay, I can see some comments. Sadiq is laughing. Abisola is wondering. I don't know if she likes the Sakwa meal plan, but you can share more thoughts on what you guys are thinking about. Okay. It aids in sufficient planning for the future. Very, very important. I think part of the purpose for, even this whole session and presentation is also to plan. If you have projects you're going to do, setting money aside is very, very important. That's how I survived in business school personally. That is how we put together the money we used to start this business. And so many things have been possible just because we set some money aside and we're sort of consciously planning. And again, remember, the goal is to have money, not to look like you have money, but I'll talk more on that later. And one thing about good money habits is it also instills discipline to you and others connected to you. So discipline is good. Any resource that you learn how to manage, it teaches you how to manage something else. So if you're good at managing money, it can also trickle into, how well you manage your time and any other resource that is limited, right? Because you only have 24 hours in a day and you only have so much you can do within that particular time. So that discipline that you learn from managing money also trickles into other parts of your life and makes you a better person, right? Then we'll just talk about some of those specific habits, right? It's very important for you to do a budget and sort of map out where your money is going. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked at where your money is going to. So maybe at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, every 6 months, or even at the end of the year, just go through your most active bank account. And I think somebody has advised this before. It's always good to use like an app where you can put description or narration on your expenses, right? So that you can see where most of the money is going. We had a session at the office a few days back, and somebody said they checked their account for a few months, and they noticed that 25% of their money was going to Ashwebi and 30% of that money was going to airtime. And then the person had to start saying, wow, I can't believe I'm giving MTN all this money. And then the person had to start, sort of planning out, saying, okay, how best am I going to manage my money going forward? That was now the conversation. But if you didn't know, if you can't map out of understand what you need to improve on and what you need to stop doing, right? So yeah, always important to write down your goals, where you want to be in 5, in 10 years time. Maybe I'll share this eventually. I remember telling myself when I was 20, at the time, I remember telling myself, writing down somewhere, of the things I wanted to do in 10 years time. And that actually included, starting a business. But after I've worked for I said I was going to work for 7 to 10 years first. And I remember writing it down, or working somewhere professional, save money, and use the savings to start a business. That is exactly what eventually happened. Even if it didn't go as smoothly, I mean, there were challenges here and there. I made some very poor investment choices. I lost some of the money I had along the way. There were many factors that, sort of didn't make it such a smooth journey. But at the end of the day, I still largely achieved those things that I wrote down 10 years ago. And, I'm also penning down some of the things I want to do in the next 10 years. Because I sort of mapped my life in boxes of 10 years, right? I have the major theme of my first 10 years was like professional experience. My next 10 years now, I have that mostly in entrepreneurship. Next 10 years, you guys will have to watch out to see. But I'm just really thinking about that. And in between those times, there were other things, right? And get married, get a car, get this, get a place, all of those things. And you have to pretty much be writing it down so you can save it. But writing down is very, very powerful. Documentation of whatever you want to do is a very, very simple hack for, building good habits. Obviously, learn to save and invest. So it's funny that I actually don't carry too much of cash in my personal accounts. That's because most times I've, typically put them in investments or savings that I can't really access. So I try not to have cash, because when you're holding a lot of cash, you'll notice that is when one shirt will be looking fine. That's when you pass by the place and you feel like it's calling you to come and eat. Or that's when you feel like doing Father Christmas. Somebody is, plenty of people are asking you for urgent 2K, and you just feel, you want to be a nice guy, you want to help everybody out. Look, it's good to help people, right? But again, if you have a budget for, this is how much I'm going to be helping people in a month, maybe 20K or whatever amount. Once it has passed that, you don't have. And that's what it is. So saving and investment, very good in places that you can't really access. If you just keep cash in your account, you just keep spending it. Stay healthy. So very important. This is a habit, a good life habit, not just for money, right? And it even ties into money, because if you're working for a company and they don't provide you with HMO, please get an HMO for yourself. Reliance is doing HMO now for 3, 5, or 4K a month. At least you can get basic treatment. You don't want to be stranded. Just because of you can't pay money for admission into a big hospital. So having a basic HMO and being healthy is very important. You can't, I can't over-exercise. You can't really save. You can't even enjoy the money you're saving if you're not healthy, right? Very important. And health encompasses a lot of things as well. Eating well, doing exercises, sleeping well. Again, I'm not perfect. I know I could eat better. I could sleep better. Which are things I'm still working on, right? So it's a journey that a lot of us are on together. Educate yourself on how to grow wealth. This is very, very important. So I'm always, and anybody that follows me online will know this, right? I'm always encouraging people to learn. In fact, if there's one thing about my brand as a personal brand, I'm always encouraging things about education. And even my Uncle Tunde and Junior series is all about education. I'm not really want to, as much as I'm have a decent following online, I'm not really want to start fights or to comment on every single thing that's going on online. I see everything. I see all the dramas about somebody commenting on their wife, the Agbado drama, plenty dramas like. But I typically not engaged in that. That's a personal decision, because I personally believe in educating yourself, and my own brand also is I believe that's one of the reasons I'm here, right? To sort of also educate people. And it's very important you educate yourself about wealth. There's so much material. There are free ebooks, a ton of materials on YouTube, great people that you can follow online, to keep learning how to build wealth. It's not just, you don't stumble onto things without making deliberate effort to sort of educate yourself. And education goes beyond formal education, beyond the university. You have to be deliberate and go to look for those sources of education to improve your knowledge on how you can, grow your wealth gradually. I mean, you can leverage technology for, to grow your wealth as well. There are so many apps. There's an app for everything these days. And I think if you're in the fintech, if you're following anything that's happening on fintech, there's so many apps you can use. If you want to invest, RiseVerse, you want to save, there's Piggyverse, there's Cowrywise. You want to lend or borrow, you can use our app Sycamore. I mean, there's so many options that helps, and there are even apps that help with budgeting too. So technology would be very, very, very helpful. And the good thing about tech is a lot of our information is in the cloud. So that's the advantage of technology to like writing things on paper, right? Anything can happen to your paper. But most likely for tech, once it's in the cloud, there are several backups that, just make it more difficult to lose that information. You see, and this is all part of the education we're talking about, right? Many people are afraid. Many people don't know how the stock market works. Not just the stock market, right? Investment, bonds, everything that has to do with finance, and it all sounds technical. Again, which is one of the things I also do, where I try to break down simple things. A lot of these things are not complicated if you have the patience to study them. So don't be too afraid to ask. Ask what videos, any material you can lay your hands on to sort of improve your knowledge is welcome. So if you loan your friend money, how do you typically get it back? Again, this is just a trivia break the ice question. Do you start calling and disturbing them? Do you start posting shares on WhatsApp? All this person where I give 2K, go better for you. Then person should pick theirs up. Or do you forget about it and you swear never to lend to anyone? Or do you report them to your village high priest? Or, well, for those of us that are not into village high priest, your pastor. Please, I want takers. Responses. Anybody? Are you guys still there? Say option C. Forget about it, yeah. You have money on Sadiq. I can't forget, yeah. My money is not plenty like your own. Any other takers? But so forget my options. How do you typically deal with it? Let's assume, okay. You can't learn one on one, you can't lose. Makes sense. George said option A. Call and stop them. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, that's how, to be honest, those of us in the lending business, that's a lot of how we do it. I don't lend because I don't have the strength to start chasing people. Makes sense. Option A, additional said option A. Option A, finance business partners. Interesting. Look, there's no right or wrong answer here, right? It's not easy this is Africa, this is Nigeria, more importantly. Once in a while, we're supposed to help people. This is just also like I deal with money lending by not offering more than what I can forgo, if not recouped. Okay, that's fine. I don't lend money if I can't dash money to someone, so that if they don't pay back, I don't get paid. That's fair enough. For those of you that have had this issue, right, you could also check out our app. It actually does this automatically, right? Where there's a loan friends. That is what is on the right side of your screen if you are looking at it. And basically allows you to loan money to friends and family, and the app stops them, debits the account on its own. You can check that out during your spare time. So there's no need to swear and say you will not give anybody money, I beg. And for the calling and disturbing, absolutely correct. And that is what part of what our app does for you. So again, this is a shameless advert plug. It's all part of my money habits in making some more money. Anyways, that's just a lighter note. Some habits to avoid. Spending money for status. So this is what I was talking about before. Again, the goal is to have money, right? Not to look like you have money. Which I think this has put a lot of us in trouble, where there's so much pressure now because of things that are happening online, especially on Instagram. Everybody's flexing, people go abroad, they are snapping pictures. You're wearing fine clothes, you're driving fine cars. And with the ones, I think for the ones that, for the people that travel abroad, actually, that's the one that makes me laugh the most because many of them don't share the struggles that they go through. But that's another story entirely. But the summary is that you shouldn't spend money for status. Money is a means to an end, right? And not the end in itself. So spending money because you want to impress certain people that really don't care about you. Everybody's really facing their own troubles, to be honest. So spending money for status, big no. Impulse purchases, again, many of us have been guilty of this. You walk into somewhere and then you see something you like. It's not in your budget, but you just buy it, right? Again, some of us might have been guilty of this in the past. And the most important way to manage, or the most effective way to manage this, is avoid those places entirely. Because you're a human being, right? You might just be tempted. So generally, if you are building habits, there's something they call environmental design. It's like, if you don't want to press your phone for too long, keep it aside, read a book. Don't stay in front of your TV when you're trying to concentrate on something else, right? You want to design an environment in such a way that you're not tempted to fall into habits you don't like. That's environmental design, and that works for impulse purchases too. So if you don't have money or you don't plan to spend money on something, don't go and walk into ShopRite and be strolling around. Before you know what's happening, you might just end up buying something that you didn't plan for. So you really want to avoid putting yourself in those kind of situations at all, as opposed to entering those situations and saying you have self-control. Environmental design, very, very important. And, to avoid impulse purchases. Don't borrow too much. Again, if you are borrowing a lot, and, people like us will probably be making more money because we run a lending business, but it is not good. You don't want to, you are probably digging yourself into a pit that is going to be very hard to come from. Borrowing is a very good financial strategy for building wealth. Don't get me wrong. Dangote is building the biggest refinery in the world, and most of it is being built with debt. He borrowed a lot of that money. So borrowing is not a bad thing. It's when it's excessive or it's all for consumption. That's when it can be a problem. But if you're borrowing for something productive, something that can bring you more money in the future, or something that can enhance your capacity or value to even earn more money, then that's fine. But if you borrow for consumption and you borrow excessively, not just consumption, if you borrow excessively, and then it becomes a problem. But borrowing, sometimes everybody needs help. So it's not a bad thing to borrow if you're in need, but the problem is borrowing excessively. And that brings us, close to the end. So if you see, this is just a joke. This is not financial advice where you can't be broke if you don't check your bank account. Again, like I said, that is not financial advice. So really, it's very important to just learn about money. Again, I said that this was going to be a very simple session. It wasn't supposed to be very, very technical. We can then have a conversation now. And it's important that, budgeting, saving, investing, those are like the pillars. It's nothing overly complicated. We can have, obviously, if you follow me and you read some of the things I've written, I like to keep things simple, right? And I can probably discuss a lot more technical things, but like I said, we want to just keep the conversation very personal and very simple, because the idea is that we're just talking about money habits. And maybe, in the future, if I do come here again, we can delve into more technical things. But please, up until then, learn about money, learn how to grow your wealth, budget, save, invest. Don't put yourself in situations you can avoid and then try to form self-control. Self-control is very, very difficult. You're better off not putting yourself in that situation and rather going there and then trying to control yourself. You're going to fall under the impulse, most likely. That's just what I wanted to share. Thank you very much. We'll now take any comments, questions, or any other contributions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So I think earlier you said
No,
our question can also go beyond topic for this discussion, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm open to take any questions around business, career, finance, generally speaking. Because I know, like I said, this is a very simple topic, and for some of the brilliant people I can see here, I'm sure they have they might have questions outside this, and I'm willing to answer. Okay, Sule, please go ahead. Sule,
Okay, good evening and thank you very much for this session, sir. We appreciate your time. Okay, my question is this. You talked about we as young professionals making money work for us in the sense that if you're able to save and use money optimally as well as invest, that we should watch the money or our money work for us. Okay, my question now is, what investment strategies do you advise for young professionals, especially for people like us that are just starting up our careers, that we may not really earn much at all, we aren't really earning much at this stage? What advice do you have for us in terms of making money work for us? How do you make money work for us?
Okay, that's fine. So I think the first thing, if you are just starting out your career, I think the focus should be, just three things. And then I think I mentioned them. In terms of the money you already have, there's the budgeting, there's saving and investment. I think for now, you don't want to make high risk investments. And there are so many of them all around the place, especially a lot of these, agri, things, the forex, crypto. I mean, again, all those things, we have to have a more lengthy discussion to really break them down. But the returns are mouth-watering, right? But you really want to avoid some of those things. And if you can manage to save no matter how little, you can invest in things that are risk-free, treasury bills, government bonds. Depending on your appetite for business, you can also invest in a business. But really, I think for anybody within the first 5 years of their career, my advice is always to focus on building your capacity to even make more money. So what does that mean? If you are an accountant, you have ICANN yet. Even if you have ICANN, how much experience do you need to get to a certain level to earn more money? What are the things that you can do to improve your value in the market such that you can command more money or make more money? I think that's where you should focus a lot of your time now. I think sometimes if you try to save and invest too much early on, you might put yourself in a situation where you are just suffering. What do I mean? I had friends when we started our careers in KPMG. I had some friends that were saving and investing a lot. And look, I respected them, but I think that the trade-off was a bit too much. So they were staying like 3 hours away from the office. By the time they get to the office, they were looking very rough. They're very tired. They didn't look very coordinated, and they couldn't do their work very well. And now this is my personal opinion. You want to also do your best to not oversave or overinvest in such a way that you are now haggard or miserable in the name of saving and investment. There's a balance there, right? I think somebody says that you want to be staying in a place that takes 20 or 30% of your annual. Your rent should be maybe 30 to 20% of your your gross salaries, or something like that. I think there are rules for how to manage those things, but I wouldn't say you should suffer and starve yourself because you want to save and invest. First 5 years is really for building capacity to add value to either any company or any business that you are building. Exams, the work you are doing, making yourself the best, and then saving and investing in things that are risk-free so that you're not worried for the most part. Crypto is not illegal. Well, crypto is not bad. Forex is not bad. But I think they are not passive investments because Forex and crypto, they go up and down every other day. So you have to be actively monitoring it. If you are a professional working for a business, you're still trying to learn the ropes and you're in your first maybe five years of career. If you are monitoring something like crypto that goes up and down every second, you're not going to be able to focus on work. So you should be focused on your work. Keep your money somewhere very safe. Again, all these platforms allow you easily buy bonds, buy treasury bills, something very, very safe. And when you've saved up to a level, you can start considering real estate if you want. But I wouldn't say you should put yourself under pressure to start buying land now. In my own opinion, I wouldn't advise that, especially if your salary isn't too much. I hope that answers the question. Yeah, let me see. There's another question from Sodiq here. Thank you for the insightful session. You're welcome. Please, I'd like to ask if you ever got an offer that took you out of core accounting role for higher pay. If not, what would you have done if you were offered? That's a very good question. I think that it all depends, right? It depends on where you are right now, and how the road that you're taking aligns with your long-term strategy. So for example, I wanted to be an entrepreneur after 7 or 10 years from my initial work experience. So anything that didn't take me away from that goal, I would have probably taken it, right? For example, if I got a job in like a management consulting role, I might have taken it because I always liked like McKinsey, Bain, all those guys. I used to admire them from afar. I might have taken it, right? Not necessarily. It depends on what the offer was specifically. So, generally speaking, if your long-term goal, for example, is to be a partner in a Big Four, then, you should probably stay within the accounting career. But if you wanted to be an engineer in the long term, and then you start out in accounting and you get an engineering job now, that engineering job aligns more with your longer term goals, then I'll say you should go for it. So it all depends on the alignment of that offer with your long term goals. There are certain jobs I wouldn't have taken if I didn't think they're going to help me with my goal of being an entrepreneur in the future. Okay, there's another question from Tohid. For career advancement in accounting role for young professionals, should one opt for MBA or professional certification? Thanks for that question. For building a career in accounting, you really don't need an MBA, to be honest. Nobody's going to ask you for an MBA. One of the most popular accountants in Nigeria, or most of the popular accountants in Nigeria today, don't have MBAs, and it's okay, right? I did an MBA because, again, like I said, I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. And a lot of people that do MBAs want to leave core accounting to executive management. So maybe they want to be the CEO of a bank or something, or CEO of another company. Just want to shift into like a management position that is not necessarily accounting. Then I would definitely advise you to go for MBA, especially if you're trying to break out of that accounting role. But if you want to stay an accountant, you don't need an MBA. All you need is ICANN, ACCA, CITN. You can do IFRS diploma in IFRS and any other accounting role you want to do. But you actually don't need an MBA if in the long term you want to just keep building an accounting career. I hope that answers it. Any other questions, comments, anything else? Interesting. How do you manage your time? What do you like the most about your work? Interesting. How do I manage my time? That's a very good question. I could manage my time better, actually. what I try to do is I try to plan my whole day ahead. I'm very, very, I try to stick to my calendar. One of my colleagues is here, Zama. He knows how much I try to stick to my calendar. So I think that, and I learned a lot from, my former boss, Taiwo Dele, in terms of how he manages his time. He hardly has spare time, but that's not as bad as you think it is. So what I mean by not having spare time. So for example, you budget time for both play and work. So good example is today now. I just came back from the birthday of one of my colleagues. Sorry, not birthday. One of my colleagues' son had a birthday today, and I know I was going to be there from 2 to 5. I know that from 5 to 6 or 7, I'm going to be with you guys. So typically when I wake up, I look at, okay, what is everything I'm supposed to do for today? And then I put them in boxes, including play. So after now, I still have one more thing in my calendar that I'm supposed to do. It might not be in my calendar, but it will be in my agenda. But as for the most part, I put it in my calendar, or I write it down somewhere. These are the things I'm supposed to do today. And those things include both work, play, sleep, rest. So every day I try to plan that out. Usually plan for the week, and then break that down into days. It's been a very past 2 or 3 weeks because I've been having this thing that I call one-on-one sessions where I'm talking to every single person in my business, and we're about 85. So that's taking a lot of time, and it's just me getting feedback from me trying to get feedback from everybody. And about what I wish creatively, I get to solve problems in a creative manner, which is part of why I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I'm talking tech 1 minute, I'm talking legal another minute, I'm talking finance another minute, because as CEO, I need to be on top of all these things and being able to see how all of them fit together and propose good solutions, finding creative ways to solve all those different problems. I really like that creative, intellectual activity of, solving those problems. So that's what I like the most. And I get to work with brilliant people too. I also like that as well. We have really smart people, and I enjoy working with really smart people. And before I answer a question, George, the Abisola wants to say something. I think you're muted your mic. Okay, maybe it was a mistake. All right. So George, what are the key things for an accountant who has a dream of becoming an entrepreneur to focus on at the early stage? Okay. So that's exactly my story. I started as an accountant and then I became an entrepreneur. I would say is to keep your mind on the market and on the things that you want to do, and then start to educate yourself on what the requirements are. So what do I mean? If you have an idea, the way you position yourself is different from somebody that wants to be a partner in an accounting firm or position themselves. So what do I mean? I knew I was going to go for an MBA. I knew I wanted to make manager in a Big Four before I left. Those were some of the things, and those drove some of my decision. So the MBA was supposed to help me get more rounded business knowledge to go into entrepreneurship. Then I was also keeping my eye on, I read a lot of books about entrepreneurs, both Nigerian, foreign entrepreneurs. So I know a lot about Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, even Nigeria, Dangote, Lumelu. I study those guys very well. I have been studying them for a long time because I wanted to be like them, right? So those were the guys I started studying. I started studying about how people started businesses, and I started seeing how that would work. And a lot of the things I learned from all those books, this is how I started out. Started business from my house, started with the money I had, didn't get an office, didn't spend unnecessarily in the first year, and then, those were I just followed their templates that I read in all those books. And that's exactly how we started the business. So I would say, you need to learn about business. You need to learn how to sell. Everybody that is going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be selling a lot. So you want to start learning how to sell now as a professional. You also want to learn about other parts of business, to not just accounting, marketing, sales, sometimes technology, admin, legal. How do all of them tie together? So if you're going to be a very good entrepreneur, you have to learn about all the parts of business and how they fit in order to deliver value to the market at commercial price, right? So that is some of the things I would say that you need to start learning if you want to be an entrepreneur in the future. You need to look beyond the accounting work that you're doing today. Yeah, welcome, George. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anything? Okay.
Okay. I think I read recently where he talked about having tried several businesses over time. So when starting out
Yes.
sycamore.ng, like what were your fears or what were your worries about starting the business?
I mean, there were several worries, right? I think maybe the biggest fear was fear of failure. Was fear of failure, and fear of being ridiculed by people that said, "Are you mad? How can you leave PwC and go and start business in your house? You're working in a big four. You're this, you're that. You're the best next thing is sliced bread. You're on the partner track." I think I was afraid of failing, and also worried about what those guys would say if I failed, because a lot of people were not in support of me going into business, including my parents. So yeah, I think that's the biggest fear. But then again, my fear was also limited, and that's what I explained to all of them, which is why I always encourage people to work for 5 to 10 years, because I already had ICANN, I already had MBA, I already had a lot of years of experience. I knew that if the business failed, I could always go back to work. As of today, if I wanted to go back to PwC or KPMG, either of them would take me today, and I'm sure I wouldn't earn anything less than at least, maybe at least 15M annually, at the very, 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 very least scenario. That's because I sort of built myself before I went into entrepreneurship. So I know that worst case scenario, if this thing fails or there's no way out, I'm just going to go back to work, and I'm not even going to go back at a level that doesn't make sense. I'll be going at a senior level. And that is the absolute worst case scenario. So when you know the worst case scenario, you can pretty much try. But it's different for somebody that is just starting their work, 1 year experience, no certifications, no experience. If you fail in business, it's be more difficult for you to go back to anywhere. There's nowhere to even go back to. I could always go back to any of the employers, any of the clients I've worked with. Even now as an entrepreneur, I get job offers every other day. But that's just because I built myself. So my fear was quite limited to, okay, if I fail, worst case scenario, I could always go back to work. Again, that's the advantage of getting experience before work.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, comments? We're good? Okay.
All right, I think if there's no other question, I think we've actually come to the end of this section for October.
All right. That's no problem. Okay. Thank you so much for having, and I look forward to engaging with everybody else outside this platform. You're welcome. You're welcome, George. You're welcome, Bisola. You're welcome, everyone.
All
Mr.
right, thank you very
Kilani,
much. We
thank
just
you.
appreciate you for taking our time to talk to us today.
everybody all the best. Please find me online, engage. Let's keep the conversation going. All right. I'll be going now.
All right, well, have a wonderful weekend, guys.
All right. Take care. All right. Take care. You too.